ISIS, the same people, changing their minds in a matter of months. The enemy's changed, or has it? Because let's be straightforward about this. If you want to go and destroy ISIS, there are 2 points to be made. It is difficult to do it because in parts of Iraq where this organization does have mass support as a result of the appalling crimes committed against a section of the Sunni population by the Maliki regime imposed on Iraq by the occupation of that country, they do support it. They have 50 to 60,000 soldiers. So it's not going to be easy. Secondly, in order to get rid of ISIS, you have to get rid of the conditions that created ISIS. And what are these conditions? That since 2003 to now, 2015, count the years, the war in this region of the Middle East has gone on longer than the First World War, longer than the Second World War. Think of the vacuum created when the social infrastructure of these countries is destroyed. Think what happens to ordinary people. Think why people then go for extreme solutions. Think why they are that desperate that they come and bomb European cities. They don't just do it, and they have their own reasons. We don't agree with them. We don't agree that this is the way to proceed. But who created this vacuum in the Middle East? The occupation of Iraq created this vacuum in the Middle East. The bombing of Libya created this vacuum in the Middle East. We now hear today from the former the socialist French foreign minister of some years ago, Roland Dumas, that the plan to invade Syria, the plan to break up this regime was in motion long before there was any mass activity in Syria at all. That's what they're telling us. The American general, Wesley Clark, describes how he walked into the Pentagon and during the Afghan war and was called in by another general into the adjoining room and told, "Hey Wes, this isn't the only war, we've got 5 other countries on our list." And when Wesley Clark said, "Which of these countries have you got on your list?" they told him, "Syria, Libya, Iran, Somalia, Sudan." Shame. And they've been waging war in different ways against these countries. They've wrecked them. Remember all the newspaper columnists and members of parliament who defended the bombing of Libya, defended the 6-month NATO attack on Libya. They still haven't told us how many people they killed. They killed between 20 and 30,000 people. And for what? To see Libya divided into 3 entities, each and every one of them run by different sets of groups. ISIS controls large parts of the country, Al-Qaeda other parts of the countries, and local jihadis the third. Is that why you invaded Libya? Bombed it, sent in your tiny, slickly dressed businessman and said, "This is the Prime Minister." Where is the Prime Minister? He disappeared within months. And you're going to do the same now to Syria? Well, it can't be done, because one big change has happened, just speaking geopolitically. The Russians have gone in, and they are attacking ISIS. There's no doubt about it. Yeah. So, if the aim is to destroy ISIS, it's better, even with ISIS, if this is done by people themselves who live in that region. But if that is your aim, then you should be fighting side by side with Assad and the Russians. That's the logic. But the fact is, I don't think they're going there to fight ISIS. Because there are a number of wars taking place. There's the war in Syria between the embattled Assad regime and the jihadi groups. Al-Qaeda on the one hand and ISIS on the other. This notion that there is a liberal third force is nonsense. 70,000 people collected together by the CIA? No, it's not true, it's a lie. If they have collected a few thousand people, have no doubt, once they arm and put them in the field, they will desert to the other groups fighting in that country. So it's not going to work. That's the war in Syria. Then there's the rivalry between America and Russia to see who can sort it out quicker. Then there's the war that is going on in Turkey between Erdogan on the one hand and the Kurdish population on the other. And then there is the war in Britain. Let us not forget. The war waged by the overwhelming bulk of the British media to try and get rid of Jeremy Corbyn as leader of the Labour Party. I have to confess that it's very difficult for me to look at Hillary Benn any longer. I'll tell you why. You see the face, you see the gestures, the body language is that of his father, the voice is that of his father, the ideas belong to George Bush and Tony Blair. And so the war against Jeremy Corbyn has got mixed up in all this. This war drive to send bombers into Syria is caught up now with trying to get rid of Corbyn. You just read two appalling Blairite columnists in today's Guardian, which I haven't read but which has been pointed out to me, because I don't read the Guardian anymore. Two main columnists not attacking the war, not attacking the irrationality of it, but attacking Jeremy Corbyn on the grounds that he is paving the way for the Tories. When what we are being offered by yesterday's folk in the Labour Party, what we are being offered is Toryism. They want to vote for the budget of the Tories, they want to vote for the Tory war. So what's the difference between you and the Tories? So the struggle against this latest escapade is bound up, friends, with the struggle to change and transform this country so that we get a government at some stage which puts working people and the poor first and before the bankers and before the money men and before the arms industry. It's no longer that it is the establishments of Europe who have linked war abroad with war at home. A state of emergency in France, extra surveillance here, creating conditions in the Middle East which will send more refugees pouring out, because that's what people do when they have no alternative left. It will increase, not decrease, terrorism, regardless of whether the present leadership of ISIS is destroyed or not, because you have created in the Middle East a situation which is not going to change unless all Western troops are withdrawn. Two big things in the Middle East remain unsolved. The tragedy of Palestine, which is almost forgotten.
Palestine!
The tragedy of Palestine that is almost forgotten, and the obscenity of the Wahhabi regime in Saudi Arabia. You support the Saudis, Cameron and friends, you support the Saudis, you bow before them, you fall on your knees before them for their money, for their wealth. And that is the head of the octopus. Saudi Arabia, that's the head of the octopus. And then you support Israel unconditionally when it carries out continuous atrocities against the Palestinian people, and you want us to believe you're for human rights? We don't believe it. And as for these Labour members of Parliament, fighting and threatening their leader, saying they want a vote of conscience. Yes, I want blood on my conscience. Let me decide whether my conscience will be bloody or not. I say shame on you. We will fight on as long as we have to. Stop the war, despite criticisms of it, despite the slanders launched against it, exists. They did a lot to try and stop us, to attack us, but we have carried on, and we will carry on. And this is not the only meeting taking place today. There are meetings taking place in 20 other city centres of Britain. We have other parties in Parliament, mercifully, as well. So it's not going to be a unanimous vote or an MCON vote. There will be a majority and a minority. And from this platform, I think we should thank the Scottish National Party, all its members of Parliament have been instructed to vote against the bombing of Syria. All of them. The underrepresented Greens are against the war. And the best of Labour, the Labour MPs not blinded by prejudice and hatred of their own leader. The most left-wing leader this party has ever had as far as imperialism is concerned. He's more left-wing than Attlee, who's constantly talked about, because Attlee voted for bombing and nuking Japanese cities. Don't forget that. There is a tradition within the Labour Party staunchly tied to imperialism. And there is a tradition within the Labour movement staunchly hostile to imperialism. And we are with that current which has been staunchly hostile to imperialism. So friends, let us end by a big, big appeal, a chant of anger directed against Cameron and his friends in the Labour Party, and say to them, don't bomb Syria.
Don't bomb Syria!
Don't bomb Syria!
Don't bomb Syria!
Don't bomb Syria! Don't bomb Syria! Don't bomb Syria!
Don't bomb Syria! Don't bomb Syria! Don't bomb Syria! Don't bomb Syria! Don't bomb Syria! Don't bomb Syria! Don't bomb Syria! Don't bomb Syria! Don't bomb Syria! Don't bomb Syria! Don't bomb Syria! Don't bomb Syria! Don't bomb Syria! Don't bomb Syria! Don't bomb Syria! Don't bomb Syria! Don't bomb Syria! Don't bomb Syria! Don't bomb Syria! Don't bomb Syria! Don't bomb Syria! Don't bomb Syria! Don't bomb Syria! Don't bomb Syria! Don't bomb Syria! Don't bomb Syria! Don't bomb Syria! Don't bomb Syria!
Thank you very much indeed, Tariq, for that wonderful speech. Now, we're